Well, even though I gave Leland a Rolex, he gave me an ebook. But we're learning that those of us who have e-readers may actually have to shut them down earlier if we want to get the shut-eye that we need. A new study suggests reading on electronic devices makes it harder to get a good night's sleep. Researchers found that people who used e-readers before bed took 10 minutes longer to fall asleep, and they were less sleepy than they would have been after reading a paper book. They also took longer to fully wake up the next day and showed reduced levels of melatonin. That's the hormone that regulates sleep. Well, Dr. Devi is assistant professor of anesthesiology at NYU's School of Medicine. Dr. Devi, nice to see you.
Nice to see you guys. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. So I'm a little bit confused. You know, I've always heard you shouldn't watch TV when you're trying to fall asleep because of the bright lights. But my Kindle, for example, it's got darker lighting.
Well, exactly. I mean, the original Kindle is actually a little bit safer because of the lighting, but the newer ebooks, a lot of them have a different type of light that actually wakes you up more. It stimulates your system. So the way to think about it, that hormone melatonin, which goes down when you're exposed to light, that's what actually sets your regular sleep cycle, your biological clock. So basically, it's at high levels at night when you're in the dark. Then when you get exposed to the sun, it goes down. So what's happening here is that it's going down because of the actual ebook. So that kind of keeps you up a little bit longer. And then, you know, in terms of the symptoms, I mean, in the short term, you might just feel tired or groggy the next day, which may not be that dangerous. But in the long term, when you affect your sleep cycle, when you put this stress on your body, the thing is it can cause other problems. I mean, it can cause obesity, it can contribute to high blood pressure, diabetes, and even some cancers. So it actually can be a more serious issue.
All right, so Dr. Devi, it's Leland here. Quick question for you when it comes to the issues of these ebooks here, and that is, I get the idea that you've got this light sort of coming back at you, but does the same thing happen when, for example, you sit in bed and you read and you have a flashlight and you shine that on the Kindle if it doesn't have any backlight?
Well, a flashlight is a little bit different because it's a different type of light. So there are things called light therapy. I mean, we actually use this for people who work irregular hours. So let's say if you work at night or if you work, you know, different shifts, not the normal times that the sun is up. So basically, it's a much brighter type of light that actually sets off the changes in your melatonin. So a flashlight might not cause the same problem, but of course, a flashlight will still wake you up more so than, you know, if you're just in the dark. I mean, the other thing to keep in mind, this study was actually about ebooks, but if you look at cell phones, you know, computers, televisions, a lot of the devices that we have, they might actually cause some of the same types of effects. I mean, one positive, so for the people who actually went holiday shopping and bought these, you know, one positive is rather than using them before you go to bed, you might actually be able to use them when you wake up, and they might actually help you to wake up a little bit more.
So that's an interesting point. So, you know, a lot of people, I think, sit there and they look at ebooks or they look at their phones, especially while they're laying in bed. They're, you know, checking, you know, prices for flights, for their vacations, whatever. You know, when do you need to stop using those devices to be able to fall asleep on time?
Exactly. So it depends person to person. I mean, there's a couple different things. There's the light itself, and there's the fact that if you are looking at something, let's say it's work-related, you know, it might trigger some anxiety or some concern, right? So you're more awake for that reason as well. I mean, I would say, you know, if you can, at least like an hour or two before bed would be the last time to kind of look at it. That's not always practical for all of us. But, you know, in terms of ebooks by themselves, you know, are they going to be that risky for you? Maybe not by itself, but in terms of the larger picture, the fact that we do use a lot of these devices. We work more hours on the weekdays. We work more hours on the weekends. All of this contributes to the fact that we are getting, you know, more sleep deprived, and it's affecting us, and then that can actually lead to some of the health problems. I mean, we also worry about teenagers sometimes because they actually, their body clock is different than other adults. You know, they actually go to sleep later and wake up later. That's the way their melatonin levels are. So the fact is, if they use these more so, it's even harder for them to wake up and go to school.
Okay, so now you mentioned melatonin. Some people are saying that that's actually more serious than we think, that suppressed levels of melatonin can lead to some types of cancers. Is that right?
Exactly. So it looks like it's related to breast and prostate cancer. Now, I mean, there are probably more factors involved than just that, but you're right. It's the stress of actually going against your body clock and, you know, changing that system from what it's supposed to be that puts you more at risk for different types of diseases in general.
All right, well, I'm going to make a point to try and put those ebooks and those devices away earlier because of you. Thank you, Dr. Devi. Merry Christmas.
Thank you. Merry Christmas.